welcome to the third episode of What We Watching with me, Aaron, and the head honcho of Mr. North Ross himself, Jonathan Nolan. How are we doing, Jonathan?
Hi, I'm actually like upset that you actually use that term because it's technically true, but also I have not I don't consider myself in charge of you. Like head honcho is generous, but professional cat herder I think is more appropriate. But whatever works, I suppose. But I am delighted to be on your show, Aaron, because I'm a big proponent for it and I wanted to do well. So I'm happy to chat the shit with you and keep the show on the road, as I say.
Yeah. So I suppose we'll just get going. What were you watching this week? Anything interesting?
Strange. Yeah, I suppose. I suppose from anyone who kind of watches our stuff, you'll probably kind of get a general flavor for what I'm into. And probably one thing that hasn't come up in my vocabulary, I suppose, is reality TV shows. So it'll come as a very much a surprise that I've been watching Forged by the Fire recently. Forged in the Fire, I should say. Um, it
I
is
thought
a
you were about to
reality
say.
TV show.
I gotta be
Yeah.
honest. I thought you were about to say Big Brother. I was like,
No, geez, no,
really?
I would not do that to myself a million thousand years. But maybe because I just don't like people. Like it's just like it's just like it's a TV show where you put random people in a house. It's a great. Is the selling point that the house slowly sinks into quicksand, or what's the pitch here? But yeah.
Have you never watched Big Brother, or do you even know about
I've
it?
I've been aware of it. Don't get me wrong. Like, I know it is
Yeah,
like they like the producers of the show, like as is with the themes of George Orwell, find the worst people to put in front of your screens to get
yeah.
angry over. I get that they are thematically consistent with the book, but no, but Fortune of Fire is an interesting one because it was actually Kira who suggested we watch it, and she wanted to get into it, and we kind of watched the most recent season of it, and now started on its newest season now, just recently. And for those uninitiated, it is a forging competition. Essentially, it's a reality TV show about forging, making swords, daggers, anything along those lines. They
I
break
think
up the
that's
season with challenges and stuff like that.
I think that's popped up in my TikTok timeline a couple of times.
It probably will because I think
I feel like I've known it.
it's quite effective at what it does. It knows what works in terms of catching the eye and stuff like this. Now it's been around for years at this stage. Like it's now into its 10th season, as I recall. And we've only really
It's a very simple premise when you think about it too. It's one of those ones you like. It's one idea, yeah, but you can do it a million different times, and it's still not going to get boring.
This is why I'm very impressed with it, because like on the face of it, it is just a cut. It's a cut, copy and paste reality TV show. It's just like here's a reality TV show about forging. Grant, let's go with that. In the same way, there's like here's a TV show about sculpting. Here's one about the Great British Bake Off is one of the best at just like here's a baking one. Here's MasterChef. Here's all the stuff. It's all the same formula in a sense.
Australia, to be specific.
Yeah, Massive Australia is the better one, the superior one. As I've got from my umpire here in the corner.
Honestly, I thought you just said I told you to be specific. Get more detail, Jonathan.
I don't know if you heard the raspberry that the umpire blew afterwards, but that was very much implied in the sound effect. But it's like having VAR in the room with us right now. Check complete. But yeah, like I said, it's on the surface, it's another reality TV show. However, I have kind of seen that like it's very effective in what it does. It doesn't overcomplicate, doesn't overcook anything, doesn't over dramatize anything, which I've been pleasantly surprised with. Kind of same as with MasterChef Australia, which is why I quite liked it towards the end myself, getting really stuck into it and kind of getting like, that's my guy. I want him to go. He's third. Fuck this fucking show. Fuck this. It's what you do. But they don't over dramatize or gimmick it either. They do bring on people. They do change it up a little bit, and they don't do what some reality TV show does, and they kind of push the worst person to make it to get more traction.
Yeah.
Whereas with Forging the Fire, it is an actual competition. You actually get the sense of a competitive spirit in it, let's say. And I think the actual what it does is very effective because, as I say, they'll do things where like, okay, this episode we're going to do a theme. We're going to do. They have to use a kind of Damascus, which is basically just a hodgepodge of metal. They need to use two sets of metal, forge it all together, and they get this kind of like beautiful patterns on it, and that's what like some Damascus is. And they might say, okay, this time you have to use wrought metal and have to make something work of this one like inherently weak type of iron, but you need to make it good, They do all these different things just to throw curveballs. Because as I said, it's a 9 to 10 series at this stage. They know what works and what doesn't. So people go on. It starts off with 4. They literally whittle it down to the final 2. But it like your typical episode would be that say, okay, we want you to make this generic weapon, and then if you get the parameters right, you'll move on to the next round. Then you can build upon that base in the second one, and then we'll stress test it and stuff like this. And I think that's the real selling point of the show is the actual stress tests. They have a couple of judges on, and they all kind of specialize in different fields, as it were. One is very much like he's kind of like almost seen as the guy that actually breaks the swords and he smashes them into things. And then you have the guy who is an actual weapons expert, and he takes almost perverse pleasure in wielding weapons in whichever way he can. And you have this guy who just kind of dresses like an old style cowboy without the kind of like the stereotypical vibe of it. He is a modern, shall we say, redress of him. He's kind of a mixture of the both. Like he's obviously very clearly knowledgeable in what he does and what he says, and he'll pop in every now and then too. The kind of selling point is what they call the kill tests. So when they have a kind of a weapon that's advanced enough to say, okay, let's try it out now and see if it'll cut this like miscellaneous object. Let's see if it kills this thing. So they'll get something on, like literally like a pig carcass, or ham hocks, or anything along those lines. They have these kind of gelatin kind of crash dummies with blood packs.
Yes, I have. I have seen that short TikTok. Yeah, I've seen that. So I've seen some of the swords already go around it and just wrap around the dummy because it just doesn't work.
Yeah,
and I've seen that a couple of times. Yeah.
Exactly. Like the producers of the show absolutely know what works for a viral thing, for a clip. Because if you're interested in the actual forging process, if you're emotionally invested in the whole thing, you can watch the entire episode. But if you want to just see, blood, gore, then the last 10, 15 minutes are for you. And by the time that we've got to it with the 9 to 10 seasons, obviously there's a bit of a mythos built around these judges. So they're always referring to these guys going like, oh, he's the guy that breaks swords. I hope mine doesn't fucking break, And then you have Doug, I can't remember his surname, it's a Marciano or something, some variability of that. And he is the one that does the kill test. He is the weapons expert. So he is like properly doing the full rotation with the sword, and he's checking it out, the mobility. And he will be covered in viscera. He will be absolutely I think the guy dresses in black deliberately for this reason, so that when he does get blood spatter and gore on his face, it actually looks like he's murdered a great load of people. Like it's almost like a sterilized, secure environment for him to have his murderous rage. But he enjoys it. But he is an actual he is an expert in it, and he has like these kind of like catchphrases. He says it in a certain way as well, so it catches on. They know what they're doing. And without really overcomplicating it. And it is quite brutal as well, to be fair. Like, they don't piss about with eliminating contestants. Like, if they have 4 really, really good people on the show, and one guy, like, fucks it up by making the handle wrong, he's gone. He's done. He doesn't even go near the next round. He's just like, nope, you're out. That's it. Get off the floor. And it's just quite like, get off the forging floor. Like, right you are. And it's all very kind of gentlemanly in that sense. But yeah, it was quite good. Like, again, it's not a show I didn't think I'd be actually getting interested in, because it's not my type. I don't do reality TV whatsoever. I don't do that type of genre. But just recently, exposure to that and exposure to MasterChef Australia, I'm kind of softening on it a little bit. I know still what to avoid, because some of it is just fucking trash. It is just shit TV. But there are actually good parts of it. There's good parts of the genre, like with every genre, I suppose. You always have its high notes and low notes, but no, Forging the Fire I think is actually quite good. Again, also another big part of it as well is that it does have that kind of level of education to it. they try and throw in it. I think it's on the History Channel, so they have to throw in a kind of a historical angle into it. So yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So they will do stuff like they have the final round, they have to recreate this historical weapon or a type of weapon to it. Anything like that. And that just again it engages you a little bit more. You see why there's certain quirks to certain weapons over the centuries and stuff like this. I think the one I just recently watched today, they were trying to recreate the daggers and swords from Macbeth. Um
Oh,
or these kind of
right.
variations of it. But again, that's also rooted in like actual 11th century Scottish kings and the type of sword, the double-edged swords that they would have had and daggers that they would have used. So there is like a vein of credibility to it. They're not just like plucking random. I think there's a similar show that does like fictional weapons, like the Master Sword and the Buster Sword from Final Fantasy, all that sort of
Yeah.
stuff. But this is genuinely more like rooted in reality, and you also get to see how people forge in different ways because they're all different ways of doing it. Some people are trained to do certain ways. Some people prefer to do they have an actual talent of making the handles and all these different skill sets. So you get to see, you get to see how everyone kind of does their things differently. I suppose with every reality TV show, you see with their skill sets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't get you. One thing it doesn't do as well, it doesn't hit you over the head with sob stories. And you don't really see men. You don't get the turnaround is too quick to get to know these people. They are
So
into doing
you're not
things.
getting like, oh, I'm not into sword building because my daddy died in the war or something like that. My grandfather, like,
Yeah,
you're not getting any of that stuff. Yeah.
if there is a genuine kind of like actual genuine sentimental reason, they'll say it at the start and they'll move on. They don't like
Yeah.
hammer it home, if you pardon the pun, and they constantly fucking repetitively continue over that point. It is like they're there to do a job, they're there to make swords, and it's almost like the producers are saying to the audience, look, we know you're here to see the blood and gore, so let's give you the preamble and now let's get you to the blood and gore, kind of way. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like tapering for both sides of the male human brain of like, here's the interesting part, here's the process and how it's made, and this is all really interesting. And then blood, pigs, cutting,
Yeah.
everything will kill. So it's got both ends covered. We'll cut. So yeah, that's what I've been watching lately. So
This
yeah,
is perfect because we can stick with the reality TV thing. I've started to I've started to watch Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares came back.
I had a feeling you say that somehow.
The best reality TV show ever.
He has the best job in the world. He really fucking does.
He does. No, I know why they brought it back. It's the writer's strike, and effectively, oh shit, we've got nothing going into September. Let's get Ramsey back out there. Come on, let's go. It's been 10 years. People
the little beacon of an angry ginger man in the sky, and he answered.
But yeah, that came back, and it's. I mean, the formula is pretty fucking simple.
Yeah,
he goes in, he gets abuse off the owner. You don't know what you're doing. He eventually turns him around. They do up the restaurant. Everything's grand. It's not that hard, but it's like episode 1 starts with him shutting down the kitchen. He didn't do it all that often in the original series. He's done it every single episode in this series. So Ari, I love it. Every single
they
episode.
Have screened the people for that reason.
Yeah, he shut down the kitchen. And the last episode, he never actually went into the. I don't think he went into the fridges, which means that they must have been keeping the place lovely and clean. Because if they haven't been, then you know about it. It's like I'm utterly convinced that the kitchens aren't that bad, especially with some of the ones that he goes into. Because there's no way someone who's been in kitchens for 10 years could possibly have I don't even know how to describe it, like chicken breasts that are literally just goo at this point. There's no way anyone has been in the kitchen that long and not noticed the fact that the chicken's gone off, and then has the balls to stand in front of Gordon Ramsay and go, "It's only been there since like Tuesday." And he looks at him like, "Tuesday, really?" But yeah, that's what I've been watching. It's been fun. I went on this week. No, I get to go break this week. But yeah, that's something that I've stuck into, and it's trash reality television. I know exactly what's going to happen every week. I know how it's going to end, and it seems to be fine. This time, though, it seems like this time they're not going with like complete and utter disasters, unlike the original series. Because I know, all right, he said he quit the last time because, I think it was 6 out of like 8 series, 6 restaurants only survived
Yeah.
past like 6 months after he had left, or something crazy like that. Because in most cases, they go, "Oh, thanks, Gordon, for everything," and they just go right back to what they were doing beforehand before they asked them to come back.
Yeah.
Either be it going back to the same decor that they had beforehand, or switching the menu back to the way it was beforehand. Because like, who doesn't want to keep the menu that Gordon Ramsay has made for you? Whether he put 2 hours of work into it or 2 days work into it, like, why would you want to keep that? But this time it seems to be like they're actually going back. Like at the end of the episode, they'll say, "Oh, 6 months later, it's still open." They're getting back into the raid. They're moving, like they're getting there. Like so it is enjoy. I'm actually enjoying that aspect of it a little bit more, because to get updates on the original restaurants, I follow a YouTube channel that goes into once a month, and he's been going through restaurant by restaurant and like going through like, it's still open, or it didn't open because of this and stuff
Has
like
that
that. So it
off
has
their own back, like not like attached to the.
no, it's not.
Oh,
It's nothing to
wow.
do. No. It's just that's what he does. I'll find the channel. I have to go find that channel actually, because it's actually quite good, because the videos are 10 minutes long. But yeah, there's been no Amy's Bakeries in this season. I don't want to watch the original one. Would know
We'll
who
know what
Amy's
you're talking
Bakery
about
is.
there,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was the one and only restaurant he ever went into where he walked out before he even attempted to change it. Just, like, oh,
just dead on arrival. That's it.
Jesus Christ. I kind of skipped there for a second because I was like, "Oh no!"
I know why you paused there, but people like on the video will think you just had like a damn flashback of Amy's Bakery.
But yeah, that was the only restaurant they ever went into. He just went, "I'm not helping you people. You're actually, all of you are off." I think the manager was stealing tips, and that's like really illegal in America. And the owner just went, like, she just refused point blank to listen to anything that he says. And he's like, "Oh, I've got 3 kids. They're in my cats." That was one of her answers. I think the husband used to be a part of the mob, and he was like, he looked. But to be fair, you look at him and go, "You definitely killed some people."
Yeah,
I don't know whether with your own hands or whatever, but you definitely killed a couple of people. But yeah, that's what I watch reality TV wise. When it comes to just normal television, we say scripted shows. Bar Loki, which hasn't, which is only in its 3rd episode. I did watch The Long Shadow, which is an ITV thing about the Yorkshire Ripper.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, it was on ITV. It's also on Virgin Media Player, which I saw there just before I came on. It's just 7 episodes about the 5 years that he just went on a murder spree. Aptly named the Yorkshire Ripper because of the fact that he reminded people of Jack the Ripper, because they couldn't figure it out. Well, it's not that they couldn't. So the way the show has framed it is, it's not that they couldn't figure it out. Everyone knew it was Peter Sutcliffe.
Yeah,
that's the way they put it in the show. But they could never pin him, because he would always clean his car afterwards. He would always wipe it down. They could never find fingerprints. The only thing they really had on him was that he just coincidentally was in these cities when the murders happened.
Yeah, and like I said, you can't charge someone for a coincidence. Like
and they did. The main cop the main one who stayed with the case for most of it after the first detective was the actor played the governor in The Walking Dead, seasons 3 and 4. It took me a while to cop who it was until I was like, "Oh, that's who it is." I know he said something or did something. My brain went, "Oh, I remember you." Yeah. But it's really good. I think by the end of it, my biggest takeaway from it was there was a tape that was sent to them, I think 3 years in. Yeah. Someone with a Geordie accent saying that, "You're never going to catch me. This is what I've done." And the big mistake they made was that they were under the impression he knew things about the case that nobody else did.
Yeah.
Where it was a complete and utter oversight in the fact that all this stuff was in a paper in the Yorkshire area, and they had no idea it was printed. So they, for years, were trying to catch a man with a Geordie accent, and they found out by pure chance, cops in Sheffield hit Peter Sutcliffe over while he was soliciting sex.
Yeah.
Obviously, on the basis that he was going to murder this woman, and cops pulled him over, and they just, once they realised his name, the cops were insistent that in Sheffield, we knew what he was doing. The car was in the car was in the corner down an alley, but it was faced out, so it was an easy getaway. They checked the car, they couldn't find anything, but what they did was one of the cops went back. At least some of the framed it in the show. I don't know how this they did it in real life, but the cops came back where he took a piss and found the knife and the hammer that he would have used most of the time behind the bin, and that's eventually how they caught him. When they said they found that, he basically just went, "Oh yeah, I did it all." He admitted to every single one of them. At that point, he could have really just played dumb with it, and even with those two things, I suppose you still can't say what he was going to use them for. You know, I suppose there was a way around it, but he did admit to everything. I think he admitted to every single murder except for one, which they found out in 2011 wasn't actually him after all. It was somebody else. But it was,
you get copycats a lot as well in that area too. So like,
people
always try and inspire themselves.
It was really, really good. The cast is very good. It's got to the fellow who played Zola in the Captain America Winter Soldier. He used to be part of Hydra, and then he turned himself into an AI system.
Yeah.
He was the original detective that took up the case, that kind of insisted that it doesn't matter that they were prostitutes. That's not the point. It's the fact that he's killing people, which really didn't fit his MO anyway. By the end of it, he was just randomly killing women all over York.
It was the easiest possible, like, yeah, exactly.
It was at the start it was, and then by the end of it, it was like he was just killing women. He was just finding them on the street alone, and he was just killing them.
Well, that's the thing with serial killers, is that like it is the kind of the relative sport to it as well. Hence why, like, you know, as you say, you've had these just term rippers generally since Jack the Ripper, you know, the kind of way.
Yeah.
Because there was like, and in a weird way, it's almost like the same kind of effect each time. It's that like they have a certain degree of awareness about like what stuff to hide and what stuff to eliminate, just to stop people from doing it. Again, this is being said to someone who was studied forensics for the college course. So in a weird way, I can kind of you'd think I'd be kind of really interested in this, but I'm kind of like almost burnt out from all the you know, like again, like a lot of people go on about like crime podcasts and crime shows that they do. It's just like I'm kind of almost like sign going like, I studied all this already. I don't want to hear about it again. You know, everyone started to learn about forensics when I did already years ago. You know,
I got to be honest, I'm not really big into crime stuff, but anytime ITV has put out a show on a serial killer, they've generally always hit it right out of the park. They did one as well with David Tennant about that murderer in Britain in the 70s and 80s. He was killing gay men.
Yes, that was supposed to be quite good too. Yeah,
that was brilliant because David Tennant in it was absolutely fantastic. Look, the absolute bop off him, and I love the fact that when the guards came up, he didn't really. It was like he wasn't trying to hide it. It was just that they didn't pay attention to him because he looked.
That wasn't Broadchurch. Sure, it was. There was something else.
No, it wasn't Broadchurch. Yeah,
no,
Des it was called.
Yeah, it was something else. He did 2 or 3. He's done 2 or 3 series with them. That's what I'm trying to remember which one it is.
Yeah, it was Des. It was 2020. That's what it was. It was called Des. He looks exactly like the killer.
About Dennis Nielsen. Yes.
Dennis Nielsen,
yeah.
That's brilliant. I think they also did one on the Grinder Killer as well with Stephen Merchant.
Stephen Merchant? Okay.
Yeah. Which was a big turn for him because I don't think I'd ever seen him anything that had like that, something that he was that good at acting. He's always just that tall doofus in more shows that I watch him in. But specifically this was like, you creep me the fuck out.
He does kind of have a very gaunt face, all right. He can't really help it, you know.
Yeah.
But, I will have to take umbrage with you on the point about ITV and crime dramas, because there was one that I went on a crime buzz during COVID, and mainly because like I actually was running out of stuff to watch and I was starting to get better than Netflix and wanted to see what else is out there. And on a whim, I jumped in from full disclosure, I jumped into Line of Duty fucking head first, got stuck in there, got down a rabbit hole, and kind of jumped in just in time for the last season. But another show I tuned in for was Whitechapel, which was an ITV series, as I recall. And the whole premise on it is quite interesting because the first season is all about Jack the Ripper. But the way they did it was basically it's a copycat killer of Jack happening in modern day London. And the way they frame it was basically the Sherlock Holmes analog is just a detective with OCD, which I think is a nicer way of saying we can't really do a detective with a cocaine habit anymore. So he's really OCD instead, you know. The C stands for cocaine. And then you had like this, you had basically like a couple of like, you know, stooges and like fools in the police department, kind of serving as the kind of the gumshoes at the time, not having a clue what's going on. And then you would have had the boffin, as it were, who was a tour guide doing the Ripper walks, you know, kind of way. So he was brought on by the police to be an expert on Jack the Ripper, as if half of the police in England aren't fucking experts in Jack the Ripper. You know, kind of way. It took a lot of presumptions. Took a lot of presumptions. But like the first season was quite good. It was only like a couple of runs each time. I think it was only like say, I'm nearly sure the first season was only 3 episodes, or at least something along those lines. And it was essentially just a TV movie per episode. So they did act 1, act 2, act 3 over 3 episodes, which is a great shout. But obviously it was such almost like an accidental hit that they went for a second season. Now, what they did instead, though, which I think was a cracking idea, was to do other retellings or other copycat variations of serial killers and murders and stuff like that. But again, they went a different route. So season 2 was all about the Cray twins. And again, they start adding a slightly paranormal twist to it each time, just as a sort of a kind of a hand wave, basically, to why this is happening in the first place. So I think Peter Serafinowicz is in that one. And he plays, he doesn't play the Cray twins himself. He play the fella who was Dot in Line of Duty, who has been in tons of things. He was in Life and he was in a couple of other shows as well. He's around for young, so you'll know him by face.
Who was he in Line of Duty?
He was in Line of Duty, yeah. I can't. He was Cotton, yeah. In that. But he was
Matthew Cotton. Yeah, I've seen him in a good few things. All right, he was first thing I seen him in was in Misfits.
Misfits, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah. So the way they did the framing device of that was that basically both Cray twins reincarnated into him because he was in the same bloodline. That sort of stuff, you know. So again, it's taking a lot of. Like,
that's quite a good idea, actually, isn't it?
It is, and that's the thing. Really smart idea. It does different things. So like they took basically historical subject matter and like in modern day London, copycat killers, copycat vibes and stuff like that. And then they started making, ironically enough, then they were doing stuff with the Marquis de Sade then, I think in season 3. Because I'm just looking up, I was trying to remind myself what was it. Actually, no, I tell a lie. Each episode then in season 3 were all different stories. We're all different copycats of various different people and crimes over the years. And this is where it's starting to lose its fizz a little bit, because in season 4 then obviously they got recommissioned and they needed to do this kind of grand they wanted to do their first overarching story. They wanted to have an original story that they were doing, and they were leading up to this kind of cult like finale in the underneath London, I think it was. And they were basically framing it as if the main detective, who I can't remember the name of for love of money, basically he was gonna like it was looking like for the longest time that he was going to be the sacrificial, like he was going to sacrifice himself, or he was going to be the reason why everyone is going to die, because there was like premonitions and there was this, that, and the other. And I cannot stress enough how much of a damn squib the final episode is, that it actually kind of like paints the rest of the series in a negative light for me, because they had built up this so much and all the characters are well defined at this stage. You know, you had basically the main guy, who I think is now see now in front of me, Joseph Chandler, So he was built up as this kind of massive OCD head that I was able to finally work with the old gruff guy, who is a spit of Sammy Lee. So it doesn't. So as a football head, it's just like, why is he here? What? How is he? Get him. Get him to go. But he's finally built a relationship with him, and then Steve Pemberton is the historian, and the three of them are just somehow able to make this work essentially. But as I said, they built up this so much, and then the final episode is just like, oh no, it wasn't actually premonition at all. It was just this one scene where he got acid on his shirt and he took it off and he put his arms out like this. Like, you fucking like, you need to actually commit to this. Do you know what it was? It was like they had the makings of the story, and then they kind of chickened out of the finale for whatever reasons.
Do you know what? Who does that as well? And it's the reason I haven't gone back to the last 2 seasons of it. It's American Horror Story.
I've heard about that.
Every single season, he sets up about 3 different endings, which will all serviceable no matter what way he goes down. And every single bloody season, he hits all 3 of them and goes, "I'll just do all of them.
Yeah,
I'll just find a way of getting all of them." Like, and that's the biggest issue. No, he has had moments where he's just hit it out of the park. 1985 was probably one of my favorite seasons of that. But that can kind of ruin the whole season. That's why I haven't gone back to the last 2. Also, they have Kim Kardashian in the current one, and she's called Siobhan in it. And my brain refuses point blank to comprehend that Kim Kardashian is a Siobhan. She's just not a Siobhan.
She doesn't look like a Siobhan. She doesn't look like a Siobhan. No. We look like I'm going to see her. We know what Siobhans look like.
Do I look like I'm going to see her in the middle of the square in Tala at 3 o'clock on a Saturday? No. So she's not a Siobhan.
But you might see her just someone who looks a lot like her in Tala at 3 p.m. But she won't be called Siobhan. She'll be called Nikita or Nadia. Bitch never liked her. It's the way it works. Like, but yeah, like I've had series like that as well where like they really shit the bed in the ending. But it's also that like I think that's also the risk sometimes when you do an overarching story, and it might have initial premise or actually if you have a mystery where the actual reveal is shit. As a Trekkie, I've burned my bridges with Star Trek Discovery for that reason. Discovery was kind of the canary in the mine shaft for all the new stuff that's out at the moment. So they, in a weird way, they were the experimental phase where they're going to see what worked and what didn't. Now, Discovery will always have its positive notes. For one, they have the first openly gay couple in Star Trek, and like they are completely unashamed about that. They have them.
Hold on a second. Wasn't there already reference to a gay couple in that from one of the main characters? Oh my god, mad.
There was a hint to it. In the second or third episode of Deep Space Nine, the Garak character in Deep Space Nine is, if you look at his, if you ask anyone who wrote for the character, he's written as a pansexual. He will literally fuck anything. And in the first
pansexual, or as I like to call them, spicy bisexuals.
Spicy sexual, yeah, exactly. But bisexual plus, if you will. But they would
bisexual plus.
Essentially, exactly, yeah, part of the Alphabet Mafia, yeah. but he, like, his first episode, the first time you see Garak is like he's basically he's kind of saw upon this like very naive member of the crew, and he is just like hands everywhere, just like kind of slow, kind of touch like that. And again, the actor Andrew Robinson, who is Scorpio from Dirty Harry, he said when he finally got under the makeup and he got into his character, he said, "Okay, I'm getting into the mood here of when I see this bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, fresh-faced young doctor, very attractive looking doctor. He's gonna go, this man wants to fuck that man." And that's how he framed the character, and he framed it from that point on. But no, that was never official. I think in kind of extended canon and stuff like that, the Bashir character is bisexual and Garak is pansexual. But that's it was never officially said until Culver and Stamets in Discovery, But they've had the first trans and non-binary characters, and they recruit trans and non-binary actors to play them as well. So they've done very, very positive things. And yeah, well, like it's kind of based off the like Star Trek's kind of like history of being progressive,
Yeah.
to continue on the tradition. But the real problem with Discovery is that whoever writes the storylines are shite. They can't do overarching stories, and it's a shame because like Star Trek can do it, but it's not good at it. It's not as good as like some other series can be. Um, like I think I mentioned when we were on last time, we mentioned Stargate, and they are very good at overarching stories. They keep coming back to it. They add another chapter on each time. They're very, very good at leaving little threads for them to pull on for next time. Star
Yeah.
Trek, like the people involved in it were new people who didn't quite get the philosophy, and they're doing the wrong thing with it. And I think 3 seasons out of the 4, well, 5 now because I think the fifth one's out soon. 3 of them out of the season, there was a big overarching mystery of like what happens with this, And the second one, I will warn on spoilers here, but this has been out for years, so it's your own risk. The second season reveals to be the main character's mother that's behind the whole thing, which is fucking ludicrous. And
But is it a good ludicrous or a bad ludicrous?
bad ludicrous, I think, because it takes away from the whole twist.
Yeah.
Because the whole episode, the whole series is framed on like, okay, it's very clearly signposted to be the main character herself, but forward in time, which is okay. That's cool. That's fine. That gets them to from A to B. But then ends up being their mother, who was apparently just missing all this time. I was like, oh no, she wasn't actually missing all this time. She's just off camera this whole time. She was actually alive, and Burnham could have talked to her at any time, but she was alive. It was like, since fucking when? She was adopted by Vulcans. What fucking happened to her? And all this sort of stuff. It was very poorly done. And then the third episode was like, why has space travel just suddenly stopped in this now? Oh, they moved everyone to the future, by the way. I should specify 900 years in the future, get them out of canon completely. No one ever talks about them again. it's fucking stupid.
Right.
But yeah, but they said, why is space travel suddenly stopped? And it's because of one alien who screamed really loudly, and he was born when the planet was in flux, and he screamed, and all the fuel just burnt up in one go. It was like, that's it.
That is a fucking horrendous compliment.
It really, and like I said, it's because they didn't have anything. They had a good premise and a good concept, but no.
It's like, but it's, do you know what that sounds like? We don't have the budget, lads, to do all the space stuff. Come up with an excuse. Children. Let's just blame kids.
Yeah. Well, like
fuck this baby in particular.
Yeah, but it was essentially just like this. Basically, like a child who was basically born on this earth, and he had somehow a kind of like an affinity with this fucking compound or element or whatever. His parents die. He gets really upset because he's emotionally sheltered, so he has no. He's basically like what would be the equivalent of being on the spectrum. He has a freak out, and his freak out basically sets every ship on fire. It was like, okay, fair enough. And then the character who is the same race as him basically adopts him as his son. It was like, all right, I'm gonna go to bed now. This show is dumb now. You're making it worse. Yeah. And I think that I haven't watched I haven't watched it since. The fourth season was supposed to be a lot more normal, but it's the same kind of thing. It's just like there's a big cataclysm. We have to find a solution to. We have to find out what it is. It's like, how many more fucking cataclysms are there going to be before the universe just eventually dies? You can't. Not everything has to be a big, massive, overarching thing. But that's just them not getting the mission statement. It's the same way with it's like making Marvel a fucking cooking show. You're missing the whole point.
Yeah.
You're putting a square peg in a round hole. If you want cataclysms, go to fucking Star Wars. Kind of way. But that's the way it is. So that was an example of a show that really shit the bed on plot twists. You'd probably throw Line of Duty in that category as well, actually, wouldn't you? Season 5.
I didn't watch Line of Duty, but my mom did, and she said the ending was. She was like, "Oh, for fuck's sake!" That was
it was a bit too on the nose.
It deflated.
Yeah. No, I remember debating about this with Amy actually, and with our mutual friend Burkbot, and because we got stuck into that towards the end, and in a weird way, I could see what he was trying to do, in terms of like, okay, he was making an obvious point where like sometimes there isn't a conspiracy, it is just incompetency. And sometimes the conspiracy is to protect the incompetency. So the fact that, like, again, spoilers here, people, but essentially, like, if the big bad is revealed to be the bumbling idiot, it's because he just wants to protect himself. So he'll surround himself with a bubble of idiots, kind of way.
Yeah.
And that was a directly pointed insult to Boris Johnson at the time, because he is a bumbling idiot protected by competency.
Yeah.
That was the whole point. It was that like half the end of the scene was like very obvious barbs to the Tories and to Boris Johnson in particular, to the Bullington Club and to all the other kind of Etonians and so forth that are kind of like grabbing that party into the far right. So like that's what. So basically, the right sacrifice goes like a bit of a point.
Without getting too much into it, obviously, because this is not a politics show, they might be getting rid of Rishi Sunak. Apparently that's sort of started with 22 MPs, and there's only really one person that could take over, and that's Suella Braverman.
Because she's more far right than he is. Funny that works,
and
isn't it?
That'd be fucking hilarious if she becomes PM, because I think that would actually be the end of England. I think that's it. I don't think any government will ever be able to ever fix anything they ever do ever again.
I will say, I keep saying this every single time I'm on this show, but the latest season of England is shaping up to be more dramatic than the last, isn't it? It's like The Walking Dead. Who's going to go next? I think it's going to be Michael Gove. I think he's going to die next. He's been lasting too long. That cocaine has to go to his head eventually. Like, come on. Like,
well, look, as you know what, that's a very seamless way of going into the fact that I have another show that I watched. As you'd swear we set this up, but we didn't.
Not
but he mentioned The Walking Dead,
this is all freeform. Yeah.
Daryl Dixon.
The
Walking Dead spin-off. Honestly, I haven't watched the last 6 seasons of The Walking Dead, and that's not even a joke. I stopped after the whole governor, funny enough, the governor storyline, where they spent the whole season building up that this is going to be a war, and then it was just pew pew. Damn, we're done. And I was like, I'm done. I'm finished. So I was kind of going into this because Daryl is, universally loved, essentially, I think, by most people who watch The Walking Dead. So I was like, this could be good. It's a new setting. It could be great. And it actually isn't that bad.
Right. Is it because of the change of scenery, or is it because they've made a character oriented?
Everything. Everything. Yeah. The change of scenery helps. The fact that they're going through an apocalyptic Paris is quite cool. They actually don't even just do the outskirts. They go right into the middle of Paris for 1 or 2 episodes. And they say that apparently at one point, once everything was starting to really just effectively die, because they were I was kind of like looking forward to how they were going to show like the main things in Paris, essentially, the Eiffel Tower and all that stuff. And they didn't make a great thing out of the Eiffel Tower, that the whole top of it came off and it's hanging off because a helicopter basically battered into it, because I'm assuming someone must turn into a zombie at some point. Yeah. And I think at night they make a vague reference. You can hear a creak at night, and they basically use that to set up later on in the episode where you can actually hear the metal creak.
Yeah,
as he's like under it and stuff. So I thought it was fucking cool. But overall, honestly, I can't wait for season 2. The whole change of scenery. The zombies are a little bit different. It's like when you get a sequel to a game and they need to kind of make just tweaks to the bad guys to make them a little bit more intimidating.
They made them more French. I'm just saying.
Actually, it's not even that they made it more French. They made a great thing that the blood of the zombies in France, maybe all of Europe, but definitely in France, have acidic blood. So if you get when they stab them, they gotta make sure that there's the distance between when they stab them. Otherwise, they can get some really bad.
It's a mutation of the virus, essentially.
Yeah, really cool. I honestly, that was brilliant. So I have to. I'm really looking forward to season 2. Because I know they're bringing it out because Carol in The Walking Dead popped up at the end of it, so I'm assuming her character is going to pop up in Paris at some point. She's still in America as it stands. But it's making me kind of go, I might watch the Rick. Is it Rick? Is that the name of
the sheriff, is it? Rick?
Yeah. Is it Rick? Yeah, it's Rick, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I think so, yeah.
Yeah, his spin-off with Michonne is coming on, I think it's February 2022. So I'm just like, I probably would watch that now. I'm kind of looking forward to that. Because, I mean, I know it's still going to be set in America and stuff like that, but I feel like if they just focus on the characters and who they are, and bring in extra character, bring in more side characters that are good. Now, the only drawback from the Daryl Dixon show is the reason why he's in Paris is because he's got to get a child from one side, one part of France to
To
another,
the other.
which is
Yeah.
grand. Heavily implying that this child is Jesus.
Okay.
So to the point where he said some things to characters like, don't do it, and they've just stopped what they were doing and just picked another thing to do. So they're implying heavily that he is not just Jesus for the Christians, he's Jesus for all religions, because he was born technically from a zombie, because his mother died in birth and she was still giving birth as she turned.
Yeah.
So that's how that was the whole thing in it. So that was the only bit where it was just like, to other nose there, boys. I feel like you could have avoided that. But it's a good plot device to drag along the story. I enjoyed it. I understand there was the only, if I had to give anything a 5 out of 10, that would be the only bit. Like, I don't mind the child overall, because that child is actually a very good actor. He's not annoying like Rick's son was for most of the time he was in it.
Coral.
He's Coral.
Coral.
He is quite good. But it's making me think that I might watch the other spin-off that they did with Lauren Cohen and Jeffrey Dean Morgan. They had their own spin-off. So I'm kind of just like, well, if this is good, maybe their spin-off was good, and I just didn't give it a chance.
Yeah. It sounds a lot like they've because it's very interesting you mentioned about the plot point about the Jesus boy, if you want to call him that, because it sounded even just from the elevator pitch that the Daryl Dixon show took a lot of its kind of inspiration off The Last of Us, and how they presented their post.
You know what? It actually noticed that. Yeah, it kind of did. It kind of just went, we'll use that idea from The Last of Us and we'll just make it in the Walking Dead series, and they did it well. Honestly,
like I mean, it's a solid premise.
It wasn't.
Yeah. Like I'm not. I know a lot. I think a lot of people on the channel have spoken how much they love The Last of Us, and again, I'm sure we've had this. I'm almost certain we've had this conversation before ourselves. But like I would say the TV show, like I've always said, the TV show is kind of a better fit than the video game is, because like the video game pretty much is a TV show, and you're just basically told to go there every 5 minutes, which is fair enough.
And to be fair, the Last of Us TV show was one of the few video game adaptations that did it so well, where you're just like, holy shit, they've actually managed to make what is already, in my eyes, the perfect game even better.
Yeah, like I mean, now, like I said, I'm not someone who is in the love-in with The Last of Us. I mean, I think the way I described it was that it is a solid 8 out of 10 in every department, but there are much better games out there that tells better stories. And ironically enough, I actually think the Walking Dead game Season 1 tells that story substantially better than The Last of Us is. And again, is
that the Telltale game?
The Telltale one, yeah. Because I think like, if you look at the relationship between Clem and Lee in that one, it's Joel and Ellie before Joel and Ellie became a thing. But the dynamic is different, because obviously Ellie is the kind of the rebellious teen, like, what do I have to do this? Whereas Clem is like, I'm scared, I'm frightened, I need a father figure, and Lee is like, I'm scared, I'm frightened, I need a daughter. So it's the relationship is different, but it also means that like Clem is now prepared for the world that's going around her, because she's had to kill Lee, and that's a terrible thing to happen. And then they kind of go in the wrong direction then from that point on. But that first game is to me excellence when it comes to writing that dynamic. And after playing The Last of Us, I said like the dynamic is good, but it's not in competition with that in my view, because again the writing is just not strong enough. It's not strong enough for a video game, is what I should clarify, because with a video game you have depth, you are able to go in deep, you have all this extra dialogue and time, and because again the Last of Us is a like relatively, I suppose nowadays is a relatively short game, because everything is fucking quantity now rather than quality. So like what is like 20-30 hour playthrough thereabouts, so there's 20-30 hours of character depth you can go into, and you're going from like time to time, like place to place and time to time, so like eventually stuff is progressing, which therefore means I think as a TV show it's the equivalent amount of time, so you're not losing anything, and you're not gaining anything either. It's a nice. Well, I suppose you're actually gaining a bit of backstory and origin stuff because they go into
Yeah.
why the fungus evolved in the first place and why it mutated
Yeah.
in the first. Which is good because that was never in the games anyway. I think in the sequel and the DLC they kind of had news articles and stuff like that, but didn't actually have the Oppenheimer analog, as it will, going. No, if this happens, if this goes up by 5 degrees, we're dead. They're going to kill us. That sort of
Yeah.
shit. So at least they had that. At least they framed it better. But then you can do that with a TV show as well. But yeah,
I did enjoy. I did enjoy with the TV show how they, because they said they couldn't do spores in the TV show because there was a plot device in the game that they said they can't put that into real life because it makes no fucking sense. Because spores won't stay in the one area.
You can't. No, they disperse. Yeah,
they can't. So when they did the whole was it like the tent? It was like the weeds on the floor. If you stepped on them, it would send a message to the clickers, maybe even a half a mile away, and basically just say, "Come here," which was probably even better.
Well, it's more to how mycelials behave, like because they're all interconnected. Yeah, so, like if you do hit one tendril, the whole body knows. So
yeah, I did it. I really enjoyed that. I was like, that would have actually even been better in the game, to be honest.
But it's that good luck programming that though. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, good luck programming this sport. I know the spores in the game are probably just easier. Just like this is just
because it's a video game. It's like dodge this cloud and progress. Yeah, exactly.
I think if they made the game though, they could probably do the tendrils because of how advanced games are getting even from then to now.
Well, that's why I was so disappointed in the second Last of Us. I mean, I only played a little bit of it and I completely switched off after the first. I was so disappointed with it. Mainly because like it's a game that boasts like you're going to have to go through an emotional story and it's your input where you literally have no say in it. And that was the kind of frustrating thing about it to me is that
I only ever played up as far as that pivotal moment in the first half hour. And I audibly said to the point, I got the pad and I went, I don't need this emotional battery again. I'm never touching the game. And I have never touched the game since. I refuse point blank to play it.
I know which one you're talking about, and I fully agree with you on that one. Mainly because I felt a lot more affinity for the Joel character than did Ellie, and mainly because I think the Joel character was actually well written, and I think whatever else is. Whereas Ellie is the weirdly she is the MacGuffin. She is the point of the whole show. She is like you have to protect her to a certain degree. And again, look, I think many people will say like, listen, the ending of Last of Us is predictable. Like man who's lost daughter finds daughter, wants to protect daughter, will save daughter from inevitable fucking demise. That's obvious. We know where it's going, but the whole point is that it's inevitable. It was going to happen, kind of way. There was nothing on that journey that was going to change that. It was natural. It was a naturally kind of inevitability to it. I think then with just having the hammer blow half an hour into the other game, it's very much a case of like it's like telling whoever's viewing, okay, you're either with us on this journey or you're not, and that's just not how to do a game, and that's not how to do any story overall. Like if I fucking killed off. If I'm in the RPG and I killed off James Rage half an hour in, I'm gonna fucking lose all of you in the RPG. Like no one wants to fucking see the adventures of everyone else but James Rage. You know what I mean? That's not gonna fucking work. It's stupid. But it's the same as anything. It's the same as anything else. You don't make life harder for yourself in a sense. And again, not to talk about games here, for instance, but like in a game that boasts about like trying not to be like not as violent and try and find things another way, you murder fucking everything in sight. That is not a message. You give players a choice. Games in the 2000s.
But I think
Yeah,
but I mean, wasn't the whole point of the second one is just like, well, she's kind of not lost her humanity, I suppose, but is like well aware of the fact that it's kill or die, kill or be killed, essentially. So she's kind of lost that. I think she's accepted the fact of herself that like the clickers aren't human anymore. Whereas
I think that's something that will be better explained in the TV show when they get to that stage.
Yeah,
because that's a theme that you can actually go into in depth. Where again, we as the player have no control. We're viewing, we're watching. But in the video game, the player does have control over this. Like the player is Ellie in this situation. She can decide if she wants to kill this or not because we are deciding if we want to kill or not. But that's me not liking Neil Druckmann's style and not being a fan of his generally. I think he does good stuff generally. I think his world building is excellent, and I think all the stuff it is, but his character work, that's sort of stuff I'm not a fan of his. I think we just come from two different schools, really.
Yeah.
Again, you're talking to the guy who's a big fucking Hideo Kojima fan, and his like solution to making a female character interesting is putting massive tits on them. So every fucking creator has problems. You know, every creator has issues. So no one's perfect.
So you know what? When someone points out stuff like that, like in games or whatever, it's like, you don't think about it, and then it gets pointed out to you, and you're just like, oh god! It's like when you find out the goblins in Harry Potter are allegories for Jews.
Or Tarantino has a foot fetish, and now all you're looking for is a foot. It's like, there it is.
Yeah.
I found it. Margot Robbie's in this movie. There we go. We found her.
What was the other one? What was the other one again in Harry Potter? It was the one and only Irish character in the movies likes blowing things up.
Yeah, blowing things up, and and
alcohol, again, and when I realized that, my brain just went, "This is so fucking obvious." Fuck. There was another couple of ones that I had to point out to Chloe because I rewatched the original 6 Star Wars with Chloe. She saw him for the first time. Specifically episode 1, the fellow who's the slave owner, clearly supposed to be Jewish. The trade imperialists, clearly supposed to be Japanese.
Yeah.
No one's telling me otherwise. And Jar Jar Binks and his whole species, stoners, Jamaican is what I'm getting at.
Rastafarians, I would have said with Jar Jar, yeah,
that kind of
with the dreadlock design as well,
yeah. And when those things get pointed, I said those to Chloe, and she's like, I can't think of anything else.
Yeah,
like,
but you get that though, like, but that's just down to like you get that a lot in science fiction anyway, because they're trying to get inspiration from something, and they think they're being progressive by making this race all based on this, whatever else is.
Yeah,
but when you do then put it on paper and then see it out in production, you see, oh my god, this is a horrendously racist production. Like every sci-fi show, every serialized show has a racist episode, because they bring on a writer or a director who thinks this is the way to put the episode together, and it's like, oh, well, again, it's like the elevator pitch. What if we have like an episode with an all black cast, and they all dress in traditional African wares, and they have interactions with this space crew, and they have all wonderful accents. We can finally celebrate African culture and all this sort of stuff. It's like, that sounds great. Then you watch the episode. Oh, that black man has stole that white woman and wants her to fight for his love. That's racist. racist.
I know, all right. There's a famous episode of it's not racist, but it is incredibly offensive. That famous episode of Quantum Leap, the original series.
Oh, that's famous for him as well. Like that, like some of those episodes are not aged
but there's one specific episode I don't think they've ever re-released, and that's when he turns around and looks in the camera and says the R word. He goes, "Oh my god, and says it, and it's a special person." And it's like, even then, which was the 80s. I'm not saying it was the most progressive way of getting through A and B, but even then, someone must have gone, lads, I think this is. I know, but the R word at that point was even, relatively, was just used whenever and wherever. Like,
but that's also the risk of that's almost the case of the syndicated TV show, because like the same writer isn't staying on for the entire run. It is a different writer for that episode, different director, different producer. So you have so many hands in the pot, in a sense, where, like, as I said, like, you will get one episode where it is like awful and it's aged badly and it looks bad and no one wants to see it again, and the next episode could be the best thing fucking ever because someone else has seen it and done it and made it better. It'll always be such a mixed bag, and that's why I think, like, especially with sci-fi, where the framing device makes it contemporary, so it'll always stick out like a sore thumb then, because you're thinking, hang on, this must be in the future, or in Quantum Leap's case, in the past. Why does this not fucking match up? Like, what, like, could you not have maybe thought that maybe we would have got rid of these terms at the time, but then they were writing in the 80s, they wouldn't have known.
I know that they did actually bring back Quantum Leap. My mom,
I haven't checked it out. Like, I'm wondering if it's any good.
My mom's, when she says TV shows are good, sometimes you have to take it with a pinch of salt. But with this one, she's pretty adamant that, like, this is actually quite a good show. And even she said it. She's even just waiting out for the original fella from Quantum Leap to show up, because I think Yeah, then they imply at the end of Quantum Leap, because they never got to finish it off properly, that he just never went home. And
That's
he's
yeah.
just
That's I
he's
think that's
yeah.
what the showrunner said. It's like we got cancelled. He never got home. It's like, oh, dude.
I don't think that's what the show. I think that was the last episode. It was a black
Yeah.
screen. It's like he never got home.
Yeah, literally,
What?
and like, well, the grand irony is that if Scott Bakula wasn't like filming day in day out for NCS Hawaii, Kira, am I right in saying?
At the moment.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
finished.
Oh, it's finished. Okay, so NCS
New Orleans.
New Orleans, that's what it is. Yeah, so he's on NCS New Orleans at the minute. So like, he's been like film. Is it finished? Okay, sorry. But like I said, he's been doing that day in day out. So I guess there's a chance he could pop in.
I wonder if they're the same studio. That's what I'm wondering actually, because if they
I'd
are,
say if they have the
imagine
IP,
probably-
they'll get him in. Yeah, I don't know.
yeah, they'll get yeah.
I think Quantum Leap is CBS, and so that's Paramount. And Paramount are reviving everything. So I think they'll
no, that's because fucking no one is buying their goddamn streaming service. And that's
well,
why
it's like
I'll move on to a movie that I watched recently. No, it wasn't that
Okay.
recent. It was about a month and a half ago. Do you know they redid iCarly?
I didn't know that. No.
They did. They got 3 seasons in. They didn't take the piss out of the people who were watching it. Basically, the logic was, you've aged. The show is aged. Anyway, here's an RG joke in episode 1. So they didn't take the people that are watching the show for granted. It was, we've all aged here, so if the characters go with it. That did get cancelled at the end of season 3, and they set up the fact that her mom was coming into it. I think the last words that she says is, "Mom." Never going to get to see her now because it just ended. But they decided to do the same with Zoe 101.
Okay.
Now, I can't say that I was the biggest fan of Zoe 101, but I did have seem to have a soft spot for it. So when I heard the movie was coming out, it was like, look, if they even do it half as well as they did iCarly, I'll probably enjoy it. Whereas the writers of iCarly knew everyone had aged, and so had the audience. The writers of Zoe 101 went, no. It's as if we wrote this in 2006 and it just stayed on the shelf for all these years. Film it the way it is. God awful movie. One of the worst revivals I've ever watched. And I've watched a lot of shitty fucking revivals in the last couple of years, because seeing as they do it every other week with TV shows.
We're in an age of revivals. Nostalgia's cool. Nostalgia's marketable again. That's what what it is.
Part of me is thinking that she forced their hand to do it because of the fact that she didn't kind of get out of the whole Britney Spears conservatorship.
Yeah.
Well, overall. So they were just like, well, we'll get some good feelings back if we bring back the one and only thing people know her for, except for being Britney Spears' sister.
Yeah.
Which is, let's be real, it is. And I was trying to like argue that point with someone. I'm like, no, it actually is. No one knows Jamie Lynn Spears except for Zoe 101.
Yeah.
But the whole movie was the fact that fucking her, I think the best friend with the glasses and the braces in the original TV show, she is marrying the guy with the decent hair, the curly hair from the TV show. So they're getting married. And her life has kind of gotten a little bit out of place because she kind of got stuck in a rock because she's out of another relationship. And so it's like a big reunion.
Yeah.
And obviously she's meeting your man for the first time, because apparently they were supposed to go out after the show ended. And whatever. What was very funny was that they did outright say none of them actually graduated from high school, technically, because it got closed down and found out that it wasn't even a real school. And the principal took off with all the money, which I found hilarious, because I'm like, that makes sense. That wasn't the fucking school. That was a summer camp that happened to have classrooms. Because I don't think I've ever seen him in class in that school. So I found that to be quite fun, of the fact they took the piss out of the fact that, yeah, it was a ridiculous fucking school. But I do enjoy
it. It showed you how stupid those children were. They didn't notice. It was like, it's like the kids in Biker Grove realize they're in the wrong fucking place all the time. Like,
the children are one thing. How did the parents not cop it?
America?
Maybe.
America?
But yeah,
just the answer. Like,
I did enjoy that. That was the one and only thing out of the whole movie that I was like, that's funny.
Yeah.
That I enjoyed, because it is ridiculous. Other than that, I wish I could get back my hour and a half. Um,
Fuck.
just
You ever
God
get the
awful.
feeling that some of those revivals are designed just so to give those original people a paycheck again? Like
In
like
her
I think
case,
I've been guilty
absolutely,
of that
because
quite a bit.
the only person from Zoe 101 that went on to do anything was Austin Butler, and he
Yeah.
nearly won an Oscar.
Anyway,
Yeah. As far as I know, yeah. Accused of being a bully. Who's accused of being a bully? Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that. All right. Did Austin Butler win an? Did he win an Oscar? I'm gonna have to look this up. I don't know if he won that Oscar for fucking Elvis.
Good question. Actually, don't know. But but I always feel like it was like some of the revival shows can be quite good for that because I think a lot of studios and networks know that we're in a nostalgia buzz, so they want to see certain shows come back. But I think they're being quite smart about what shows they are bringing back. Because I think both CSI and Criminal Minds have been back recently. I think CSI have been back. I think is Criminal Minds back out, right, Kira? Or it's not out yet. Essentially,
They brought it back for a season. I did actually watch some of that revival, and I couldn't get into it as I did the oldest year. I don't know why.
Because we watched a couple of episodes of the CSI one, and we had the same feel. Was like they had a new cast of the new CSI, but they're slowly bringing back the old cast as a sort of to see almost to try and sniff out something. I thought we watched more. Where's one?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Austin Butler didn't win an Oscar because he was up against Brendan Fraser that year, and
but he was never
going to. Yeah,
he's never going to win.
But he did win. He did win something a lot more prestigious, and that was the Irish Film and Television Awards Best International Actor. And I mean, that's what's really
about. Yeah, yeah. It was the Oscar he won. Yeah, but we had that with the CSI revival in a sense where they immediately I think they announced their recital starting off. So they're like, okay, here's your your original character, and then usually, as we've learned with a couple of them, once you see one, the rest of them often follow. So then I think they had Grissom then in the first or second episode, and it's the same difference. It's just they're obviously trickling back all the original cast for either as a contrast or part of the story or whatever, but they do it. They do it by design. They know that the audience wants to see these people again, 15, 20 years later or whatever. And it is just a stupid market out for it. It's nuts when you think about it.
I love the original CSI.
Yeah, same.
Absolutely
Sure.
love it.
Yeah.
William Peterson's days, and I enjoyed Grisham. As it went on, it didn't really hit the mark every time they brought a new kind of lead in. I did like Ted Anson in it and stuff like that. But I
had that trouble with Criminal Minds. I was such a fan of Gideon as a character that I couldn't get used to Rossi. It was like he was sitting in the wrong seat or something. And again, it's absolutely nothing on the actors themselves. It's just I couldn't get used to the character. And I think as well because I was starting to wane off it at the time that I actually didn't get to know him as well as others did either.
Yeah.
So because I'm almost certain it was Kira will know this more than I do, but I'm fairly sure Manny was around for 3 seasons, and then he passed on to Joe, I think. But I think it was 3 seasons anyway. It felt like 3. Manny Pacquiao, yeah, was it 3 seasons? Yeah, yeah. And I think then Joe took over from there. But like I said, those 3 seasons I think were just so well done, and there were such good episodes, such good storylines in there. But I think you're always going to run into that when you change something up, when you move. Yeah, so it is, yeah, absolutely.
At least the original CSI though, even though they changed the lead, it still worked because they had most of the original cast.
Yeah,
the Lawrence Fishburne was Lawrence. Yeah, he was. Yeah, Lawrence Fishburne was there as well for a little bit. He was the lead as well.
That was actually quite a good era of CSI. I watched a bit of that. It was actually quite good. Yeah.
Was it I can't remember. Was it the Ted Danson one or the Lawrence Fishburne series where they had a killer who was in a latex suit, much like the first season of American Horror Story, but he was in a latex suit. You never found out who it was. they set it up as if, ooh, this is like maybe the overarching story for the season, and we get back to it in the finale. I remember vividly going, "Oh, I can't wait for this to end." Never came back.
Yeah,
There is
recall,
a
actually.
there is a full latex suit killer in Vegas, and apparently was never found, and just sort of got away with all the murders.
My initial instinct is that it was during the Ted Danson phase, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. Um,
I do hope like they probably won't, because I don't think it was one of the more loved CSIs, but I
hmm.
did enjoy CSI New York.
So did I. I thought New York was great.
Mainly for Gary Sinise, who I do like. Now I
Hmm.
need to check up. Is there a reason why he's not back? Is he racist, or is he a Trump supporter?
Is
Because
he cancelled.com?
he's in his 60s now, so could be one of those things where you didn't know he was, and then you find out that, like, the fellow from Stranger Things, the kooky fellow who was in the last two series, and suddenly you figure out he could speak Russian. He had the
Oh
beard.
yeah,
He
yeah.
was a
That guy,
comedian.
yeah.
Yeah, massive pro-Israel fella who's been putting out absolutely crazy shit on Instagram for the last couple of weeks. But because no one really knows who he is, it all went under the radar until like
Yeah.
today, and someone saw it and went, "The fuck is this dude doing? This shit's going on." It's like Tara Strong, the voice of Miss Minutes and in
Yeah.
Loki, and massive Islamophobe.
Yeah.
So that's sort of ruined her for me as well. But
It's a
no, it
shame
looks
because
like
I know Tara Strong quite well. I actually quite like her as a voice actor, but yeah, that's disappointing as well.
yeah. So Gary Sinise looks like he's just yeah. It looks like that he just doesn't really act that much anymore. It seems like he's
Yeah.
just sort of just like he's 65. He's just sort of just his last actual movie was in
Hmm.
2020, and even at
But like,
that, 2019,
I,
2017, 2015. So it's not like he does a lot anyway.
I think we can all agree that like it would be absolutely just wonderful banter if CSI Miami came back just to have Horatio Kane put on sunglasses for an hour. Like, don't even have a crime. Just have him
But
just walk into just general
my
rooms. Be David Caruso. Like,
I love CSI Miami for one particular reason. It has nothing in particular to do with the show. My nan fucking hated him so much. She refused point blank to watch that show because of the fact that she didn't openly curse. My nan would never openly curse, but I remember she one day goes, "I'm not watching that. He's a fucking arsehole," and turned it right off.
you do what they normal what a lot of nans do when they just like the bottom jaw comes out. It's like it's like holding the curse words so that God wouldn't hear.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
But he's she hated him, but I'd love for CSA Miami to come back. That was
Mm.
the right balance of half interesting TV and absolute bullshit. It's sort
Yeah.
of balanced out just well enough that
I'll give you
I
another
and I
one who
still
was that was that. I'll give you another one that was that and was surprisingly quite good because I watched it. I binged the entire lot over COVID again. Got the full box set, got the series, the special as well that was in London. 24. When 24 was brought back a
oh
couple of
yeah.
times. And the latter seasons are genuinely really, really good.
I did watch one of those 24
Live
seasons, but I
Another
never really
Day.
watched
That's
the
the one that was set
original.
in London. It
Yeah,
was
I
I
think I
think
might
it
have
was a
that one.
Sky production, or at least Sky
Yeah.
showed, and they had a lot of English actors on. Christina Chong actually got one of her big breaks in that. She was quite good in it. Come to think of it, but yeah, but like that was one where like you like I think at the height of 24, you remember like the first 5 seasons when it was all like peak like international terrorist paranoia, where like every season they just basically pick a random like nationality, base a terrorist sect around that, and then oogly boogly Jack Bauer like shoots some knees apart, and there we go. Whereas,
I'm gonna take a wild stab at this because of the fact that it debuted in 2001. Can I take a stab that the first terrorist sect may have been Muslim in nature?
no, they weren't actually.
Oh, okay.
They were actually from Serbia. They're Serbian.
Oh,
Yeah, but I think after post 9/11, they did do a season. There was 2 seasons where it was Islamist sects, but It was from the same thing where like, well, they were like, again, this is the Fox network that were doing it, so there is a little element of that every now and then, but they framed, I think the second season was where they did with the Islamist sect, but what the C story was to do with a Arab American family, and they're having a wedding essentially, and the father's side gets caught up in the situation, whereas the Arab side of the family are actively getting like racially abused because of the stuff that's happening in the town.
Yeah.
So like 24 is not the show for social commentary. I must stress that now. Any level of social commentary 24 had is absolutely a fucking accident. It is a vehicle for Jack Bauer to kill people. It is a vehicle for like weird sexual tension in an office where everyone can kill people. There's any excuse really for like paranoia over someone who is a different skin color than you. That is what tickles the back of that brain. Whereas for me, I think it's a really well put together action show. It is a very good action show. It does stuff that no other show does in terms of like the transitions. It set itself such a annoying parameter and say it must happen all in real time. It's like, fuck, okay, let's have all these three scenes playing at the same time. You know, genius idea. It's a very, very clever idea. But also means they have to make life harder for themselves, and they have to do all these moving parts all the time, and they have to throw in stories. They've had to plant the seed here, so that it sprouts 17 hours later, and they have to keep track of all that stuff. Whoever had to write it must have been on a metric ton of cocaine to keep track of all the plot points. Like, I am actually genuinely impressed. But in fairness, the latter seasons, to be fair, they don't lean into the like, you know, a nationality as such. It's more of a political drama. You know, I think Bauer gets more of a CIA gig. He's kind of attached to the president and there's threats to her life and stuff like that. I know that's kind of what it was anyway, but it's when he's back in the fold, and it's like it's more based in Washington than anything else, as opposed to LA that had like a nuke, a dirty bomb, a chemical bomb, and everything else happened to it in the fucking 5 years. You know, like Los Angeles in the 24 universe, there is no such thing as California anymore. It is now just East Hawaii. There is nothing left of California. You know, but like, but genuinely, that's how bad it was. But again, honestly, that's one where like the little bit of a revival or a bit of a breather or reset did that show quite good. But again, the buzz was gone at that stage. No one wanted to tune in for season 7 of the same show over and over again. When, to its credit, they were actually trying to do something different. Which then kind of ties back to our conversation we had about the revivals, whereas the audience now just kind of want more of what they remember. So they want characters back, and they want crossovers, and they want that. It's kind of like a weird era of like official, like Hollywood producers and writers and screenwriters writing fan fiction and putting an official label on it and shipping it out. You know, it's weird, and it's accepted now, when people are enjoyed and want more of it. You know, so like you are going to get more of the same, I suppose. But do you like it or not?
I think that's. Do I have any other revivals that came up recently that I quite liked? Not off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I think I've ran out of stuff to say.
Jesus.
Just end it there. Just
put
out. Do you know what George should do? Don't end this normally. Just put it black. Just slowly fade it to black. No, like Simpsons TV. Just like.
Or we just go for the Sopranos anywhere again. So.
Oh yeah.
Okay, you fucked that up, right? So we can't do that one.
Do you know what? Sopranos, right? I never watched The Sopranos. I don't care who kills me. Can't get into it. I tried 5 different times. All right.
Okay.
It's not like that. Do you know that scene me and Amy quoted the odd time from Family Guy, where Peter's like, "Well, if we're all gonna die, I better admit something. I did not care for the Godfather." It insists upon itself, Lewis. It insists upon itself. That's kind of the way I am with The Sopranos. I could never really like. I think maybe because I heard so much about it, it was always just one of those things that just my brain couldn't like take it in. But I did remember when the finale happened, and as you know, then it aired in America about 4 months before it aired.
Yeah,
and because the internet wasn't a big thing, no one knew how it really ended. I think all my mom knew was that it was supposed to have been so shocking the creator of the show had to fuck off to Hawaii for a bit because he kept getting death threats.
Yeah,
So
that's all right.
so in the sitting room that I'm in now was my mum and her current boyfriend at the time, and then the sitting room next to us was me and all my mates. And Don't Stop Believing comes on, the whole thing cuts to black. Immediately, rightfully mind, because I did do it earlier in the episode. What did you do? Did you sit there going and everyone just screaming? And my mum and her boyfriend inside this room screamed their head off at the fact that it just went black, and then the credits just hit, and the whole house at the same time went, what the fuck? How, what? And I knew there and then that would be one of those endings in a TV show that live on for decades. It'll always be quoted. How is that not a penalty?
I personally love the ending to that show myself.
I'm sorry, but how is that not a penalty? Anyway. I'm watching Man United struggle to beat fucking Copenhagen.
Oh god, that's a Stonewall penalty. Jesus. It's so funny when it's not given. Oh, stuff. But I'm actually thinking of here's another one for you, right? We're talking about endings that should have failed but didn't. Have you ever watched Life on Mars, the BBC drama?
No, but I know how it ends.
Yes. Now, there was a sequel to that show called Ashes to Ashes. Same premise. But Keely Hawes is the lead instead of what's his fucking name? The guy from Doctor Who. Can't remember his name. You know him by face. John Sim. There we go.
Yeah, I know the but yeah.
So Keely Hawes is there, and then you have all the colourful cast of characters, quite literally colourful because the Gene Hunt is a very racist man, but it works because. But this that's an example when you were talking about like Quantum Leap, kind of like shit in the bed with language and all that. That show it works because it's juxtaposition. You're putting someone from the 21st century with 21st century political correctness back into the 1980s, where literally it's misogyny and fucking racism abounds. You know, it's the juxtaposition and it's getting the point across that they're a fish out of water. But Ashes to Ashes was the same premise. However, they did 3 seasons instead of 2. And they kind of follow the same story beats of Life on Mars. But the 3rd season, they actually answered the whole overarching like reasons for why this is happening. Why is it suddenly that the same bunch of lads, except for the John Sim and his girlfriend, suddenly all upsticked from Manchester to London? And they were all 10 years later. They all stuck together, which doesn't happen in the police force. They all got whatever else. And when you then they added in a really, really good mystery to it. They showed a policeman with his kind of half of his face blown off, and he was in older gear. He was in he was in bobbies essentially. He was in the 50s or 40s or whatever. And then like this character was hearing music from the Queen's coronation, where you're thinking, okay, that didn't happen in the 80s. But what did happen was the royal marriage, the Charles and Princess Diana. So when he was seeing that, he was hearing the coronation. I was like, okay, well, that shouldn't be happening. And then this woman was starting the female policeman was getting really disturbed by screwdrivers all of a sudden. It's like, why is that happening? And then why is this happening? And suddenly, why when everyone's looking up?
So I know I'm cutting you off now again, right?
Oh,
you look at the fucking TV. That has to be a penalty.
Oh, it was totally a penalty. I'm agreeing with you.
No, it happened. It's not. Are you fucking mad?
Hang on, you're in here. You're in here. Now that is a penalty. Or is it now? Hang on. I want to see it again. Oh, the flag is up, is it?
Okay, it may be a penalty. It may be a free kick right at the edge of the box.
I'll have to look at this first off.
Oh, hold on, maybe not. Shit. He didn't touch him. Shit.
I think he's off anyway, to be fair, Aaron.
Was he? All right, fair enough.
I think so. He's
right.
he doesn't touch him at all, actually. You're right. He doesn't
touch him at all. Yeah, no, okay, fair enough. Okay.
Rashford. Come on, you're better than that.
Do you know what you need to do for those little bits? Just there's this joke in Welcome to Wrexham where
Yeah.
the manager keeps. Have you watched it? Have you been
I
watching?
haven't
Welcome to
actually.
Wrexham?
No, I've been meaning to get into it. To be fair.
Do because what they say when the manager keeps cursing is enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm.
So try like a joke there. He goes, Aaron is showing enthusiasm for the United game. Anyway, back to the actual show. But
They were and suddenly the roof is gone and they're only seeing stars. And the constant reoccurring theme is that sometimes that character will black out. It'll fade to them in silhouette, and you'll just hear the lyrics of Life on Mars. So it's harping back to this. And so Keely Hawes' character decides, you know what, that's it, I've had enough. I'm going to figure out what happened to Sam Tyler, what happened to John Sim. And the more she digs in, the more Gene Hunt starts to push her away until she actually gets to the actual reveal. And it is a genuinely excellent plot twist. You do not see it coming. You absolutely, whatever idea you had in your head when you're watching the show, it is not this. It is 100% not this. If you haven't watched it at all, I have not given too much away. I've just kind of posed kind of questions.
yeah,
I would go and watch it. I really, really would. I think it is genuinely a triumph of writing. It's a triumph of pulling off a mystery well enough to keep you going for another season. And they do this 5 times in a row successfully. They have kept 5 mysteries going out of 5 seasons. And I think that's a genuine accomplishment. And also they know when to stop.
It's surprisingly not in any streaming service over here.
It's I think it's BBC iPlayer only. I'm sure you can get on DVD as far as I know. But
one of the few series I've ever come across that's 100% in Rotten Tomatoes. Not movies, series. How hard is that to? I don't even think Breaking Bad is 100% Rotten Tomatoes, is it?
Yeah, like I know even from my own kind of like from my own. I've taken a lot of notes and cues from Life on Mars and Ash to Watch in terms of presentation, because the amount of music they take from the 70s. And they take the hit in the budget for it because if they want this song that's thematically consistent with the episode, they will fucking spend money on it. You know, they will do it. And I've even done that for even as not even remotely on the same scale before when we're doing the after credits of the RPG. If there's a song that I know works with this, I am using it. I will if they flag me on YouTube, I'll take the fucking hit. You know, the kind of way. Because it works. It is necessary for this. Because that's what we do. That's like, as daft as it sounds, Life on Mars and Ashes to Ashes did what Stranger Things are doing now, and with minimal fucking comparison, in my view. Like, you know,
I do like I gotta be honest. Stranger Things did die off in that 3rd season. I was just like, and it's too. The worst thing about the 3rd was it the 3rd and the 4th season was you knew at this point we kind of have to end it now.
You have to finish it off. You have to finish the story, exactly.
So I'm really sorry that this was really shit, but we kind of got to just keep going. Whereas the last season of it was fucking phenomenal. Like, oh my God. It was the whole twist with 11 and 1 and that whole thing, and that's who's on the upside down. And oh my God, it just spoilers. That whole thing, when they set up that whole ending, and you finally figure out what is actually going on, honestly made those 2 shit seasons beforehand so much better.
But it's the power of using the right song at the right time, because like even with those certain things, I know like I haven't watched the show outright myself now, but I know of certain scenes you're talking about, and I know even the Kate Bush scene is what I'm referring to here. Like that is so effective. It got Kate Bush into the charts. You know, that is how strong so when you get the right mix together. And again, I'd imagine that is either the director or producer thinking, hey, do you know what would be a good song to go with this song that we know of and we've used as a motif throughout the entire run of the show. Let's do that again. And again, Ashes to Ashes do it. They talked about they use David Bowie all the time.
Need to point out. So Life on Mars is 100% Rotten Tomatoes, which is, as I said, rare enough for a TV show on Rotten Tomatoes, because you're always going to get an episode or 2 that'll that'll drag it down. Breaking Bad is not even 100% Rotten Tomatoes, and I think that's the most perfect TV show ever put on screen ever.
I think it's probably 100% as well, because Life on Mars is literally only, I want to say, 20 episodes, 22 episodes. And it splits itself
I think
evenly between stories in the main
is
plot and then
is Breaking Bad about this? Oh no, Breaking Bad's got some
oh no, Breaking Bad is
7,
substantially more. Yeah.
2033. Yeah, I think what brings down Breaking Bad is season 1. But I think that got hit with the last writer's strike that happened in Hollywood,
Hmm.
so it had to end at episode 7.
Yeah.
Which was the best thing that ever happened to it because I don't know if people notice. Maybe they do. He had plans to
Hmm.
kill off Jesse in season 1,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
because of the fact show, yeah,
Yeah.
he had to keep him, which was brilliant. What was the other one? What was the other thing out of that? That was just like a
Uh,
nice coincidence. He couldn't get Bob Odenkirk for 1 or 2 episodes because he was
oh
doing How I
yeah.
Met Your Mother. How I Met Your Mother. So that's how
Hmm.
they got Hank to come in, and that's how his character got written into the season, which is again brilliant because let's be real, he's probably the best character in that whole show. You feel really sorry for him by the end of it. Not sorry for him, but I suppose, but you kind of just like, he didn't have to die.
Yeah, no, it's
But
pathos, it's sympathy, yeah.
but
No,
yeah,
but I think the perfect score is more so because it's short. Is that there isn't a bad
yeah,
episode in that's in the 8 because this is gonna be a sideways kind of reference, but I'll make it anyway. One of my other favorite series is Ghost in the Shell, the anime. Mainly because I like its story structure. I think is excellent. It splits the show evenly between the main story arc of whatever it's doing, and then the rest of the episodes are peppered in between when it's relevant of all world building and character episodes and all this sort of stuff. So it gives you a little bit of a breather before it goes again. Life on Mars does something similar where it has only 8 episodes per season. It's about like I say 5 episodes mostly, if you were to do the maths, are about the main story, whereas 3 are about the times that they're in, for instance. So like
yeah.
there's actually
So
you'll
kind of
love
like,
Life on Mars in particular because there's an episode just about the Manchester Derby and the football
okay,
culture of Manchester. So there's like it's all set around the same time. And again, the main character is a Manchester City fan, and Gene Hunt is a Man United fan, and the two of them are clashing because of that. And again, it's a culture thing. It's talking about hooliganism. It's talking
yeah,
about split families apart, all this sort of stuff.
okay,
Brilliant episode. I've never seen a TV show just say, you know what, let's talk about football culture. And in the vacuum of like say of the 1970s when it was at the hooliganism was at its height, you know, and then in Ashes to Ashes, it does the same thing. Where like, okay, let's have a breather from the main story arc and let's talk about apartheid. When we
Jesus,
have because there's an episode where the South African embassy was bombed, and again, lovely use of juxtaposition because most of the detectives are sympathetic towards the South African who's saying we've been bombed, that's terrible. Whereas Keely Hawes, after seeing what's happened in South Africa in that time and how it's like substantially, less racist than it was, literally just she points to him and goes, "Shut up, you racist!" And your man is going like, "Why am I racist? What did I do?" But it's
yeah.
purely contrast, and I can't remember which one it was. I think there was one done around about the IRA as well, um, possibly two. There could have been one in each Life on Mars and Ashes to Ashes because again, that was relevant at the time as well. So there's period pieces in amongst the series, and that's what really grounds it too. You get a sense of like we're in the 1970s, and they get the costume spot on, they get the car spot on. The action scenes are hilarious because they're so over the top. They're very like they very much take their modes from like old BBC shows where they overdo it a bit, like Minder and the
Yeah.
Avengers. So they know what they're doing. And especially in the 80s where they really take the piss with that. Because in the 80s, everything has to be bigger and funner and full of cocaine. Let's all have a lovely time. Cocaine has been a running theme of this episode, I've noticed, and that is totally unintentional. I should clarify. But yeah, that's one recommendation I'd have for you is Life on Mars and
Well,
Ashes to Ashes.
do you know what? At the moment, as I'm looking through what's on TV, because even though the writers are back, the actors aren't. It's starting to hit that point. So we have Rick and Morty back, which has been all right. I'm not saying it's great, but it's been grand since it came back. The new voice actors are quite good. There's not
Okay.
much change. You can hear the change in Rick's accent. He sounds a little bit more squeaky. Overall, they did a good job of getting him back. What else has been on? Gen V has been good.
I've been looking to jump into Gen V. see what it's like. I'm kind of waiting for the full
so
run
this
of it.
this is one of my favorite shows that's popped up in the last couple of weeks. So, did you ever watch Boiling Point, the movie? Did you hear about it? It was
I've
set
heard
in
of
a
it.
kitchen.
Haven't watched. I have heard of it, but haven't watched it.
So the movie's brilliant. It came out just at the start of the pandemic. Set in one shift in a kitchen. It's got Stephen Graham, one of the most underrated actors of the last
Oh, another one talking about.
30
Yes.
years. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't know they were bringing out a TV show, but they did. And it's got 4 episodes. It doesn't, it sort of follows the same premise, but it's more of a Jesus Christ. I was more saying Jesus Christ for the.
It was such a great premise that Jesus wrote it, apparently.
No, Garnacho just made a run and he was like a whippet, but he hit it with his knee just a little bit too hard to hit the goalkeeper. Anyway, so the TV show takes place about 8 months after the movie. Stephen Graham character is still much in it, but he's recovering from, I think, the end of the movie. He gets a heart attack because he's just banging coke down his nose, which is a big problem in kitchens anyway. And he ends up getting a heart attack from the stress. But most of the cast came back into it. It's 4 episodes long. I advise anyone to watch the movie, then watch the 4 episodes. For some reason, BBC shows lately have shite sound editing and mixing. I don't know what the fuck they're doing. So you gotta watch with subtitles. I don't know why that is. I understand they're trying to get the ambience of the whole like kitchens are loud and stuff, but like
It could be the digital version being fucked as well, maybe. I don't know.
It could be. It could very well be that. But I highly advise everyone to watch it. But episode 2 does have one of the most graphic depictions of self-harm I think I've seen in a long time in a TV show. That took me back that I had to take a break from work. Because I was just like, Jesus Christ, that was grim. Because you kind of know something's going to happen anyway with one of the characters, but it doesn't like... It just kind of goes... It does not shy away from it, and he goes into the toilet, and something happens there, and it just happens, and even the character who finds it, you're the same as him. You just go, oh fuck, oh shit, fuck, and it's just immediately he goes into it. He tries to save him, but brilliant, honestly, fantastic show. Stephen Graham's character is not in it as much as the movie, but he's still in it enough that you're kind of figuring out what's happening with his character. I hope they bring it back for season 2. I feel like they could bring it back for season 2, and I don't think there'll be an issue because they kind of set it up that they could get away with doing a season 2 without being shoehorned. Or
that's
kind
fair.
Of like,
they have enough to go on. Yeah,
they've much enough of a premise to walk off of with the way it ended. I'd advise probably watching that. It's some really good television.
Well, I mean, that's a nice way to end our video, is to give the lovely people out there some recommendations. I mean,
I'll give another recommendation. I was kind of surprised that it's actually quite good. The reboot of Frasier, fucking good.
Really,
really funny. It's not as good as the original, I suppose. But I mean, the original is kind of one of those proper iconic American sitcoms that would be very hard to even match anyway. But the reboot, not bad. Set in Boston now. It's got Rodney from Only Fools and Horses.
Such a strange one, isn't it? Like, you never would have picked it. Like, never would have picked him in there.
He's very funny in it, to be honest. He's actually legitimately probably.
In fairness, he's from Only Fools and Horses. He's covered when it comes to sitcoms. He knows what he's
doing. His whole character is just like he ended up going to Harvard, whereas Frasier ended up doing his radio show. And they put out that he did a TV show, but he's tenure now in Harvard, so he truly does not give a shit. Doesn't give a shit about the students. Doesn't give a shit about his job. He's just sort of there now because they can't fire him. So
very true to life.
It's really funny, but they do kind of flesh out Frasier's life from when the original series ended, where he got his own TV show, his own talk show, and they did a great job of saying, like the start of it, it was like, a Dr. Phil type thing a bit, where it's like, he's actually legitimately helping him, and then it eventually just turns into what happens if Dr. Phil kind of did Ellen.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
And it was just like he's having an identity crisis then because he's trying to figure out, is he even good at this job anymore? Does anyone
Yeah.
like him because he's a good therapist, or is it because he was just famous? It's a great premise. Honestly, really good. It doesn't have Niles in it, but it does have his son, who they casted very well. They also don't have the British actress who played Niles's wife or girlfriend. I think at that point.
You're really happy about that actor's not getting a gig.
I should be, and it's Harry Maguire of all people as well. Fucking yes. Oh,
This is gonna look so strange in the edit. And you know what, Aaron? I'm not changing a fucking thing. It's gonna stay in the edit.
Don't at all. Don't at all. That was a great goal. That was a brilliant header. But that's kind of everything that I've watched, and kind of things that I've seen recently. Don't you fuckers.
Wait for it.
Why do I get excited for United goals these days? Who's offside?
See now in a minute. Hang on.
Oh my! No, he's not. He's not. And if they call offside, I'm gonna bust my laptop.
Can you not? Can you do it live on camera? Because that would be funny.
That can't be offside. That's not offside. He's on, albeit barely, but he's on. That's all edit it's gonna be. Do you know what, Jonathan? Don't edit it. Just put it up as is.
I think you'll get away with it, Aaron.
He got away with it. He got away with it. He got away with it.
Right.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Right. Well, in quest averted, Aaron's laptop lives to fight another day.
There doesn't seem to be family. Do you know what? I will say this. I know Family Guy for a number of years kind of petered off to being not as funny as it used to be. They've managed to rewrite that show where it's now very self-aware of what it is.
Yeah,
they've managed to balance out the whole episode story with. We know this show is kind of staying on its legs because of TikTok. So we can now cut it. You can feel it. The episode is cutting away where people can clip it and slap it on TikTok, put it into compilations. Honestly, really, really funny. I think last season they had one of the more iconic jokes of the show where Peter doesn't like giving oral pleasures to Lois. So he gets hypnotized that if he hears a certain theme song from a TV show, he just goes, "Oh, let's do it." To which they're at her parents' house and he brings up food to his mother-in-law, and she's just happened to watch the TV show, and Lois hears it and runs straight up and sees him doing the deed with her mother, and it's just a scream. A blood-curdling Peter. That's one of, honestly, the voice actress is phenomenal. It's genuinely like it's a scary scream that if you didn't know it was from Family Guy, you think it was from a horror show. But yeah, anyway, I gotta go. This one,
yes, you do.
35 minutes longer. As I said, don't edit this. Just put the graphics
I'm keeping
on
the whole fucking thing in there.
Yeah. By the way, another reboot that I do want to watch, and I don't know if it's going to be good or not, is they've rebooted Goosebumps.
Goosebumps, you say?
Yes, they have. I think they kept the theme song too.
Nice.
So yeah,
that's a definitely nostalgia buzz. That's a nostalgia buzz in its own right.
Yeah, and it seems to be getting some decent ratings. So one of those ones where it's like, it's not the worst thing in the world. It actually is not bad.
We have that similar situation at the moment because fans of the channel will remember that we did a Beyond Belief Fact or Fiction watch along, and was one of the first things actually that got traction on the channel was that we were one of the only ones that were doing it, as in we were predicting the stories were fake or were fact or fiction. And hilarious enough, in the time that we have done it and the time that we are starting to kind of like bubble, consider doing it, bringing it back to restart where we were. There's 2 new seasons of it where they got Jonathan Frakes back in the room of many props, and having him talk to ODQ. They've got him back doing it for a 56th season, which I think is hilarious. Because again, it is purely nostalgia. It is solely because of the memes of like John the Frakes interrogates you for 40 seconds. Or he like says no to you for 40 seconds. It is solely, they've genuinely just brought it back just for that reason alone. And if there's any reason to bring back a show, but just for the meme quality alone, like that's your perfect example. Like that's and like Goosebumps is kind of on the same vibe where people are going like, oh, do you remember that show, or do you remember Alone in the Dark? They're all going to come back because now there's another generation of like people
Alone in the Dark would be great to bring back in modern day.
Yeah, but it's the same difference, like, literally. Yeah, because
I mean, Goosebumps has got 77% Rotten Tomatoes, which I suppose for a reboot that's on Disney Plus, that's not bad. It's also got Justin Long in it. I know I'm sold.
There you go. And we know where Aaron's going to go at the end of the show.
Oh no, I got to make sure that United win this. Although if they don't, I'm not watching United on Sunday.
Come on, man. That's the fun. That's the best.
No, because it proved in my own head, which I've said to myself for a while now, I think I'm turning into a jinx. United
turning into a jinx.
I am a jinx because I think United have only won 2 games I've watched this season. The rest they've either drawn or lost and played terrible on top of it.
It would be hilarious now if we kept talking for the next 15 minutes and just experiment with this jinx and energy. Maybe do you know what? Actually, let me have a 15-minute lecture about my favorite movie. No, I mean,
go on, get you fuck! Oh, Garnato should have put that away in the first place.
What I'm going to do is in the edit is going to put up a little football icon whenever Aaron gets distracted by the shiny object on screen, and it'll actually look like he's shouting at the football. So whenever that happens, whenever you see it on screen, folks, he is officially distracted and he's talking about something else, and not like insulting an actor or complimenting a show really well or anything like that. He is distracted by football.
I'm one of the few people that can't actually insult actors, except for Eric Roberts. He can go fuck himself. The worst actor in Hollywood that I'm absolutely, totally, utterly convinced he's only in acting because his sister is Julia Roberts.
Hey, nepotism comes in very strange ways, man. You know,
every single time I rewatch Suits, I actively do not pay attention to the episodes that he's in because he's shite. Anyway, I better go.
I'm glad that we sorted that out. We got that in before. Signed off.
So fuck Eric Roberts. Put that in the actual name of it. Hashtag fuck Eric Roberts.
I get the feeling we'll hear from the Roberts family in some way if we did that, which would be good for the viewership.
Actually, what was quite funny, we'll end it here because I actually really do gotta go. What was quite funny a couple of years ago when I watched Brooklyn Nine-Nine, there was like an episode, a plot point in it where the main cop and Andy Samberg's character went into prison, but it was something to do with the mob.
Yeah.
20 minutes before they announced who the mob boss was, I turned to my mom and went, I bet it's Eric Roberts. And she's like, how'd you know? I'm like, it's a serialized TV show in America. It's fucking Eric Roberts. I guarantee it. Lo and behold, he pops out. I went, fuck this. I got up and I walked out. I just knew it was going to be him. Anyway, right, this has been fun. We managed to get a conversation. Was that nearly an hour and a half worth of talking?
It was longer than that, my friend. Yeah, about that. Yeah,
that was brilliant. Anyway, this was fun. We'll do this again in another couple of weeks. I've been Aaron, and we hopefully will see me in a couple of weeks. If not, you'll know that I had a mental breakdown because United got battered to City at the weekend. Anywho, thanks for joining me, Jonathan, and we shall end it there.
Always a pleasure.
Leave it there, so.
All right. Leave it there, so.